Hey everybody, it's mid-June 2023. Thanks so much for checking out our channel again today, Big Toe Bushcraft, Wild Foraging, and Identification. I'm Tori Clark, and Little Dog is off exploring somewhere. I know in the last video I said we were going to have our next one up on the ridge. It has been so smoking hot through May and June that I have not been able to take advantage of being lakeside. And today is a little bit cooler, so I'm taking advantage of it. So we're going to be checking out some edibles, some poisonous, and all-around water-loving plants. So come for a walk with me and see what we can see. Wait, did you hear that? I followed the sound of the canadensis coming from down the valley. I think I'm gonna forage some Typha latifolia and make a stir-fry. Now, one thing that you have to make sure when you are wild foraging, be aware of your environment. Waterways can be polluted, they can have heavy metals in them and toxins. And one thing about water plants is they make a wonderful filter for the water systems. And they will absorb over time the heavy metals and pollutants. And if you're harvesting in a polluted area, you are going to be ingesting those pollutants. So make sure you're not near like an industrial area or an old gas station, a mill, anything like that. And if you're on a moving waterway, make sure you know where the water source is coming from. If you follow all these rules, you're fairly safe in your foraging. So just be sure you know what your surroundings are all about. And even if you're just trail walking, you know, animals pee on the side of the trails, people pee on the side of trails, you know, boat launches. What are you going to do before you go out on your boat? Well, you're probably going to shake the dew off your lily before you head out. So again, just be aware of your surroundings. Family of river otter, Lontra canadensis. They eat a lot of the freshwater clams there in this lake. Always finding broken up clam shells on the shore. Mowing down on a sunfish by the looks of it. So these are the broadleaf cattail, Typha latifolia. They are also known as the bulrush or cat of nine tails. They also have many other names, but the list is long. So Typha means the rush or cattail. Now in Greek it means marsh, and latifolia means broadleaf. These are the forager's dream. You know, it's from the rhizome right up to their little seed pods. They're an amazing plant. So we're going to take in for a closer look, and we'll do some identification. So the rhizome runs horizontally under the ground, and these all pop up out of the actual rhizome. So the rhizome is edible. It's very starchy. You have to cook it. So it's used for soup thickening and for thickening of, like, say, a stir fry. Because of the starches in them, they actually make a nice gravy. They're very fibrous, so you've got to remove all those fibers and whatnot. So medicinal uses, you can actually pulverize the rhizome into a jelly. And this jelly you can use on sores, you can use them on like boils and that kind of thing, skin irritation. As they get older, these plants, okay, I'm going to actually pull up a piece of the rhizome here. Perfect. So you can see this is the rhizome. This, honestly, the rhizome these plants are very prolific, and the rhizome will carry on. So you can see the really fibers in them, really thick, and they're not palatable at all. So you've got to actually boil them and get all the goodness out of them. So you'll see the stalk, the leaves wrap around the base of the plant. So you can actually remove these leaves. If say you have a sunburn, you can remove these leaves like the aloe vera plant, and these have liquids in them as well. And they work, this jelly, as you can see here, it's very jelly-like consistency, great for sunburns. So if you're taking your kids out to, say, a lake or a river, and they got sunburnt, and you forgot to bring the SPF, go and find yourself some broadleaf cattail or narrowleaf cattail. They have the same components, and it will ease your sunburn. So when you want to eat these fellas, peel off all the outer layers. They're like a leek. You know how they grow around the main stalk. Peel all these out, and you'll get down to the center, which is the most tender and edible part. Trying to get to the center here. There we go. So this linguine noodle in the middle, as it were, this guy is totally edible. There we go. So these tender soft shoots that were in the center of the main stalk are all edible. And you can stir fry them, you can put them in your salad, you can eat them cooked or raw, doesn't matter. And the great thing about these, the whole plant is useful, whether it be for medicinal, whether it be for foraging. The leaves are great for weaving. So if you need to make a quick little basket to gather up some mushrooms or berries, these guys can do some really neat weaving into baskets or placemats or whatever you like. Yeah, so moving up the stalk, we have this guy. I'm just going to chop that off because I'm taking it home with me. So at the top, inside this sheath, is the premature flower head. And seed pod. So you can see that it is in two sections. Kind of a divider there. So this top piece is going to be the flower, and this bottom piece is going to be the big sausage on a stick that you see around the edges of waterways. So, is it edible? Of course it is. You can eat it like corn on the cob, as a matter of fact. It has the texture of couscous. To me, anyways, I find it does. And you can add that to soups like a couscous, and it's quite delicious. Quite a mild flavor of cucumber. So these will form the flowers, and this will form the seed pod. And then this will be the big spike coming out the top. And I'll give you an example of one from last year that is still on the plant. So you can see how tall these guys are, or can get. I mean, I'm 6 foot. And this guy's a good foot over top of me here. So I'll bring one down. And so this is what the seed pod looks like the following year. But before it goes into the fluff mode, it is a big, like I say, sausage on a stick. And this top spike here is where the flower would be. And you can use the pollen for flavoring, you can use the flowers for a flour additive for baking and whatnot. Bushcraft tip of the day. This is awesome. Awesome fire starter. It has a very quick flash point, so you need something that's going to pick up the flame on top of it. But yeah, this is amazing stuff, and you can see why the birds love this for their nesting. Nice and soft. You can even use it for like stuffing a pillow, or say your coat is losing its filler. You can cut a little tiny hole in the side outside and fill it up with this stuff, and it will make a bit of a difference, a little bit of a layer. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful plant. Are there toxic lookalikes? Why, yes, there is one. It is called the yellow flag iris, Iris pseudocoris. Terribly invasive. They clog waterways. They have toxins, mostly in their rhizomes, and which can burn your skin. So you want to be very careful. And this, it's called irisin, is the toxin, and it'll cause blistering and burns. Yeah, so this is the yellow flag iris, or water iris, right here. Iris pseudocoris. So again, this is very invasive, and it looks very much like the cattail. However, it only grows about a foot tall, the leaves, and has a bright yellow flower, which you can't miss. They look exactly like your garden variety iris, only yellow. Now the Typholatifolia, the cattail, their leaves grow concentrically around the stalk, whereas you can see on these water irises, they grow in kind of a plane, like almost like a fan. And they have rhizomes just the same, and they go underneath. And the problem with getting rid of them is if you pull them up, they normally break the rhizome, and that piece of rhizome that's left in the soil or in the mud will grow again next year. So be very, very cautious when trying to remove water irises from your water systems. Almost fell in, little dog. Yeah, so the toxins in them are irisin, and it can cause blistering and burns. So, and the highest concentration is in the rhizome. So again, use all your cautions. Ah, the lily pads. Nuphar lutea, polysepala. So Nuphar means water lily, and polysepala means many sepals. This plant does not have petals. That yellow you see are all sepals. Are they edible? Yes, they are. The seeds, you can grind them up and use them like a flour after you dry them. You can steam those seeds like vegetables. They also pop like popcorn, believe it or not. Oh hey, there's another corn reference. The rhizome is huge. It's like a big baseball bat that looks like a pineapple skin. And the inside of those are, yeah, they're edible, but they stink. Like stink on a monkey. Really, really quite gross. So That one is kind of a absolutely desperate survival. But I've got a piece of rhizome just that got dug up, I'm assuming, by either the beavers or the otters. And I'll give you a quick shot of that. Yeah, so this big gray thing is the rhizome. And see, it breaks apart quite easily. But as you can see, it's kind of looks like a weird pineapple-y thing. And out of this rhizome, all of these new lily pads will grow. But yeah, smelly. The second you bring it out of the water, it stinks. So, yeah, not even appealing looking. But starchy, again, you can use it for, you know, thickening soups or stir fries or anything like that. That will probably, at some point, get sunk over the winter and start growing again. Well, you can see it's still got lily pads growing out of it right now. And here's a close-up of the old flower that something's been chewing on it. But in here you can see the seeds. And these are what can be used, like I say, for like popcorn, or you can grind them up into flour. Yeah, it's slimy and you're going to have to wash it and get all the seeds out, but there they are. Kind of like a pomegranate almost. Here's a nice example of one of the rhizomes that are growing. Not meaning to kick my tripod here. But yeah, you can see it in the water. They like to grow underwater. But yeah, to me, they look very much like kind of pineapple-y texture on the outside. And they can get very long, like several feet long. And you'll be able to see that we actually have a lot of the water lilies. They grow all up and down the lake. Oh, and the lily pads themselves, not the most edible, but you can use those for, like, say if you wanted to steam fish on a campfire. They work great for that. Another one that you can use is for steaming is skunk cabbage leaves. Pretty cool. This over here, this beautiful pink flower, is the Western Spirea. Spirea douglasii. It's related to your common garden variety Spirea. It also has other names like steeplebush, hardhack, Douglas Spirea. Oh, and buckbrush is what my grandfather used to call it years and years ago. So is it edible? The edibility of this plant is unknown as far as I know. They form these pyramid kind of shaped flowers, and there's actually 80 to 100 different species of Spirea. They're in the rose family, and they use these a lot of times for water bank restoration. Like if you've got a creek and it's starting to get eroded away, they plant these along the banks to hold in the soil and keep it there and stop it from eroding away. So it's an all-around great wild plant for that kind of thing. Very nice. And the flowers turn from this beautiful pink to an ugly brown, and I'll just zoom the camera around here to show you. So this guy, these are the old dead last year's flowers. So they keep their shape and all that, but they go yucky brown, and all the seeds and whatnot are in this here. And I have no problem with this plant. It's quite pretty. But moving on. So if you're in a survival situation, the one plant that pretty much dominates the entire world, pretty much all except Antarctica, are grasses. So this is Reed's canary grass, or Phalaris arundinacea. And most grasses are edible. Now there are many different genuses of the grasses and whatnot. One of them is the Poa genus in the Poaceae family. And there's like 11,500 species of grasses. Now they do aid the gastrointestinal problems. And actually I have a little story for you. When I was young, and we were out driving with Mom, and sometimes kids get car sick, and you can't help that. Well, when she didn't have a Rolaids that tasted of perfume from rolling around in the bottom of her purse for several months, she'd pull over on the side of the road and have me pull out the grasses. So you get the, actually I have to go a little bit lower, and they should just slide right out of their sheath, like this. So then you get this really soft meristematic growth at the end here, and it's tasty. So she'd have me do this on the side of the road, which is just fabulous, considering it's the side of the road. So any of the bad stuff that was coming off the cars and trucks that were transporting stuff would be all concentrated there. But hey, we didn't know any different in the 70s. But yeah, so most grasses are edible. And they also, you can use them for weeding. More bushcraft tips of the day. So yeah, they've got lots of nutrients in them. They've got like magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, iron, potassium, the usual. So you can actually grind these up in a blender and make green smoothies out of them. You remove the fibers and whatnot. But yeah, so great. So we're going to carry on through here and hopefully not run across a wasp nest, because they love this crowded kind of environment where it's shaded. And I've come across an animal trail here. So it's probably like the otter or mink, maybe the beavers. It could be the geese too, because they all come off the lake and come into the marshy areas for shade and sleeping. And this here is the burr reed, Sparganium eurycarpum. And I'm not totally sure that it's not Sparganium americanum. So it's called the burr reed because it gets these burrs on them. And as they get older, they will attach to like animals' fur and whatnot coming through the marshy areas, because that's what they like. They like to have their feet wet. And they've got, as they get older, right over here, one of the older burrs. Just going to pop one off. So this is what they look like when they get older. It's like a little mace almost, So yeah, this will get attached onto somebody's fur, and they will go through the bush and drop it somewhere else. It is in the Typhaceae family, which is the bulrushes or the cattails. So they are edible. Their rhizomes and their base. Hi, little dog. So you can do the same thing with these as you can with the Typholatifolia, the cattails. Take all the outer layers off until you get down to a nice growth in the middle. Now these you do have to cook. Same with their rhizomes. It's just a safety precaution, you know. The rhizomes are very full of starches, which can bug our tummies. So again, you know, you just, like I say, you peel it all down until you get to this center bit. So yeah, you can cook that up and like chop it up and cook it and stick it into a stir fry or a stew or soup or whatever your likes are. Yeah, but these are the younger ones. Here, bring in for, you can see that they almost double in size. But yeah, and they're kind of soft when they're younger, soft and fluffy. And those will get, like I say, attached onto an animal and taken off into the forest or other marshes somewhere else. We have here the wild mint, Mentha arvensis. It makes a great tea. You can add it for flavoring. You can even use it like a potpourri if you like. As all mints, they have a square stalk, and this one's hairy. Okay, so the leaves are opposite, and when it gets its flowers, they're kind of pink to purple, and they do a whorl all the way around the actual plant. And one thing you will find when you're harvesting mint, it has a very, very pungent, strong smell. And once you get it on your fingers, it's very difficult to get it off. So you can be picking this mint and then go and pick another plant right beside it. Say this one, for instance, which also has a square stalk, but it is not mint, and the leaves even look similar, but see how much lighter it is? But now that you've got that mint on your fingers, the smell, you're going to pick this thing up and smell it and go, oh yeah, that's mint. It's not. Just, it's one of the major cautions you have to be careful with when you're harvesting. And thank you, little girl. She just took a pee on a couple of the plants that I was actually going to harvest for tea. Those little guys there. So they're going to stay there until a few rains, I think. But there's plenty more. So I have a little story for you about the mint name. Gather around the campfire, children, it's story time. A little Greek mythology about the name Mentha. So Hades had a wandering eye, and the Greek god of the underworld. And his wife knew that. His wife's name was Persephone. Anyways, there was a nymph named Mentha, and he fell in love with her. Well, Persephone found out about this. Wasn't too pleased. So she turned Mentha into a mint plant, where she would forever be situated on the bank of the river. Little history for you there. And how could you have a show about a waterway without the Canadian beaver? Castor canadensis. Maybe he'll give us a slap. Will if he sees little dog. We've come to the conclusion of this episode, the Riparian Zone. Thanks so much for watching. We have many more videos to come, and if you like this video, you know what to do. Till next time, folks.